I want you to think of the last time your back hurt. Maybe it was after bending over to pick up a pen, or a sock, or reaching down on a low shelf, or putting your shoes on, and your back gave out. It seized up. You felt a lightning bolt pain shoot down your leg. And maybe you laid down, you found a position that offered you some relief, and you didn't dare move another millimeter. And you thought to yourself, how did something so small do this to me? Well, that single moment didn't break you. What broke you had been accumulating for years, silently, and without any warning. Today I'm going to be showing you exactly what was going on inside your body that entire time. Because once you understand this, everything changes. I'm Ryan, movement specialist and founder of Ironbound Stability. I've worked in strength and conditioning for 15 years with athletes across all levels, professional, Division I collegiate, down to the youth level. I've worked with law enforcement and tactical operators, and with private clients across all ages, youth to elderly. I've seen this problem in every kind of body, in every kind of athlete, in every kind of person. Yet I ended up unable to bend over to tie my own shoes. Years of heavy loading, years of training through tightness that I thought was normal, until one day I couldn't bend over to tie my own shoes. And it wasn't from a single bad lift, but from years of something that I knew about academically, I just completely missed it in my own body. The same thing I'm going to show you. So when I finally went deeper than any doctor or physical therapist had ever taken me, I found the answer. And I've spent the last decade making sure that my clients don't lose the same years that I lost. This is what I found. In order to understand why your back still hurts despite everything you've tried, you need to understand that your spine has two completely different muscle systems working simultaneously. System 1, your global movers. These are your big muscles, like your spinal erectors, your lats, your glutes. These are your sledgehammers. These are big, they're powerful, they're built for movement, they're built for force production. And then you have System 2, your local stabilizers. These are your deep muscles, the ones that sit underneath the sledgehammers, like your multifidus, which is your spinal stabilizer, and it's responsible for holding your vertebrae completely still as you move. These ones are your surgeons. They're small but very precise. Now in a healthy spine, these two systems work together seamlessly. The surgeons hold the structure together, and the sledgehammers move the load. Perfect division of labor. But when that division breaks down, everything breaks down. And it breaks down in a specific way that most practitioners completely miss. This is what's been happening inside your spine. So these two books here represent your spinal vertebrae, and this bread ball here represents your spinal disc. Now your disc is made of two parts. This crust here, annulus fibrosus, which is the tough, fibrous outer ring that holds everything together. And you have a soft structure on the inside, the nucleus pulposus, which acts as a cushion for your spine whenever you move. Now when your stabilizers are doing their job, when they're on and they're contracting, your vertebrae sit perfectly stacked. There's no sliding, there's no friction, and your disc is fully protected. Now when those stabilizers go offline, this happens. Your vertebrae start to slide against your disc. Just about a millimeter. You probably don't feel a thing, but your disc feels everything. And as these slides accumulate, the outer fibers start to fray. They start to tear. 1 rep at a time, 1 set at a time, 1 year at a time. And eventually, the outer ring fails. The nucleus then pushes through those fibers and right onto your nerve. That right there is your herniation. That's your sciatica. That's that lightning bolt of pain shooting down your leg that all started when you bent over to pick up a pencil. Now, you probably have another question. Why did your stabilizers go offline in the first place? And the answer to that is a process known as arthrogenic muscle inhibition, or AMI. And understanding this changes everything. See, when your muscles' joints are injured or inflamed, even slightly, they send a signal up to your brain through a nerve called the medial branch. And you can think of this nerve as a highway. And lots of different signals use this highway, but we're going to focus on 2 specific signals. Your motor signals that travel from your brain to your stabilizers, telling them to fire, to contract, in order to protect your spine, and pain signals which travel from your joint to your brain. And those signals tell your brain that something is going wrong in that joint. But the only problem there is pain signals are like emergency vehicles. Like paramedic Barbie here. And what does traffic do when an ambulance comes through? It pulls over. It stops. And your brain prioritizes that signal so completely that it shuts your motor signals down. It mutes your stabilizers completely. And it does this in order to protect the injury. And that is AMI. It's a protective reflex. Your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. But here's the thing that most rehab programs miss. I don't just mean sharp pain. Even that low-grade tightness that you feel before any real pain kicks in, that is enough to trigger AMI. Your receptors don't wait until you're in full-blown pain. They fire for any abnormal signal that's coming from the joint. Inflammation you don't feel yet, mechanical stress, low-grade tightness, any of those signals are enough to keep the ambulances moving and the motor traffic stopped. That is why exercising through pain and tightness is keeping you stuck. This is also why your standard rehab program fails so consistently. The bird dogs, the dead bugs, the planks, every physical therapist prescribes them, every chronic pain patient has done them, and for most people in the situation, they may feel like they're working for a few days, but you go back to life, you go back to your activities, and the pain returns, and here's why. Those exercises are trying to strengthen a muscle that your brain has deliberately shut off. The stabilizers are muted. The ambulances are still on the highway, the motor traffic is still blocked. So the exercise isn't failing because you're doing it wrong. It's failing because the signal is still jammed. And nobody told you that. Nobody told you that the first step isn't strengthening. The first step is clearing the signal. The first step is getting the ambulance off the highway so the motor signals can flow again. We're going to talk about that more in phase 2 of this series, but first, there's 2 more layers to this cascade, and they're happening inside of you right now, inside your muscles and inside your brain itself. Now, if AMI persists long enough, and in chronic pain patients it almost always does, something happens inside the brain itself that makes everything significantly more difficult to fix. In a healthy nervous system, your brain has a precise location, think of it as a parking spot, for every muscle in your body. Your multifidus has its own spot. Your global movers have their own spots. The brain knows exactly where to send the signal. This precision is called your cortical map, and it's what allows your stabilizers to fire with surgical accuracy at exactly the right moment. But chronic pain changes that map. Researchers like Paul Hodges and Siobhan Chabrun have documented a phenomenon called cortical smudging. The precise parking spots for your stabilizers and your global movers bleed together, and the brain loses the coordinates for the muscles it needs the most, your stabilizers. This is why you feel stiff and fragile at the same time. Your brain is trying to stabilize your spine, but it's lost the precise address for those stabilizers. So it does what it can, it sends a signal down to where the stabilizers used to be, but that signal gets picked up by your global movers, your sledgehammers. So then your sledgehammers brace down, trying to protect your spine, so you do feel tight, you do feel rigid, you feel armored, protected, but you're not protected. Your sledgehammers trying to brace your spine is kind of like trying to keep a tower of blocks from swaying back and forth by holding your hands 6 inches away from that tower. Those individual blocks are still going to slide and grind across each other as the tower sways, and the same thing happens in your spine. Your vertebrae, without your local stabilizers, are sliding and grinding across that disc as you move. So the sledgehammers are trying their best to brace down, but they're all the way out here. They can't hold your individual vertebrae together. Those surgeons are still offline. So your sledgehammer is trying to do a job that it wasn't designed to do. So all the shear forces just keep on going with every movement. This is why when your physical therapist tells you to brace, you do feel a brace. You feel like you're working. But you're working the wrong muscles. And you're not doing it wrong. The address to those stabilizers just doesn't exist anymore. This is the final piece of the cascade. And honestly, it's the most confronting. This right here is what a healthy muscle should look like. Healthy stabilizer. Dense, red, full of contractile tissue, and ready to fire on command. But this, on the other hand, is what happens when your brain stops talking to a muscle for too long. Really beautiful for cooking, but devastating for your spine. See, this white marbling here is fatty infiltration. Your brain assumed that the muscle retired, and retired space gets converted. So the fat moves in, pays no rent, does no work, and this is absolutely terrible for your spine because fat don't contract. You can't strengthen a storage unit. You can't stretch your way out of this. You can't foam roll it away. You've been trying to fire a muscle that's been partially replaced. That's why the exercises didn't work. That's why the stretching didn't work. That's why the strengthening didn't work. And that's the full cascade. Those shear forces frayed your disc, AMI shut down your stabilizers, cortical smudging made your brain lose the address to the stabilizers, and fat moved into the vacancy. This is why nothing's worked. It's not because you weren't trying hard enough. It's not because you're too far gone, but because nobody addressed the right problem in the right order. Now here's what I need you to hear. None of this is permanent. And I want to be specific about that because you might have been told that before and you haven't felt that to be true. But the research is clear. Neurological retraining restores cortical precision. That blurry map, it gets redrawn. The parking spots come back. When the joint irritation driving AMI is addressed, the ambulance stops. Motor traffic flows again. Your stabilizers come back online. And when that signal returns consistently, your muscle responds. Studies show that fatty infiltration reverses with proper reactivation. Slowly, but measurably. I've seen this in athletes, in post-surgical patients, in people that were told they would never train again, in people that couldn't pick up their grandkids. The system isn't broken permanently. It's just jammed. And jammed systems can be unjammed. But you have to address the right problem in the right order. That's exactly what the Why Nothing Works series is all about. Over the next 3 videos, I'm going to be giving you specific interventions for each layer of this cascade, starting with a more controversial one. Why the thing a lot of people reach for first for back pain may be keeping their signal jammed. So if you've used a heating pad for back pain, the next video may challenge what you think you know about why it feels good and whether or not it helps. So subscribe so you don't miss it. And let's start a conversation. Go ahead and leave a comment down below if you've gotten an explanation about any of these layers of the cascade from your doctor or a physical therapist, or if you've just gotten the generic, do more of these exercises, get stronger, do more stretches, do more foam rolling. I read every comment, so let me know down in the comments. I'm Ryan, and this is the Why Nothing Worked series. Nobody should lose years doing the things that they love because no one was able to give them the real answers. Let's find yours.